Kia ora, nau mai haere mai ki Te Karanga o Te Whenua. I'm Jade Gibson, and today I'll be sharing my story. As a rangatahi Māori, my journey's been influenced by the hard work and dedication of the wahine Māori you've heard from throughout this podcast. Collectively, we hold deep love and care for the whenua and hope that we can create a better future for our mokopuna. Ko kokai te maunga ko Hotohoto te awa, mai rāhui mānuka ki matāhu te rohi moana, no Whareponga tōku ukai pō, he uri ahau ngō Ngāti Porou me te Aitanga āmate, ko Titihuia Whitehead, raua ko Apirana Pipi Urupa, oku tipuna, ko Jade Te Whenua. I wasn't raised with te ao Māori, but I knew from a young age that we are the taina because I looked at nature and went, how can something this beautiful and amazing come into creation? Humans could never ever do this. Humans could never ever create this way of being and living and blossoming and feeding and communicating that nature does. Wow, we have so much to learn from nature. And I realized the world doesn't think like that, and she needs our help. Our people need our help. People need nature, and nature needs our help to bring people into closer relationship. So no one in my whānau had ever been to university, but I felt that if I had a tohu, if I had a degree, maybe people would listen. I went to university, I studied environmental science. After the first year, I was so fed up with it because it separated the biology from the chemistry, which just made no sense to me. You can't separate the people from the Taiao. Yet that is how science believes merit is given to research, is when it is in a controlled environment and people are separate from it. Mum used to make us Manaaki all the time because we had to grow our own food. A person can make that garden flourish and thrive, or without a person, the weeds grow and the kai is gone. So how can you measure the health of any garden without understanding the influence the people are having on it? Anyone who goes into the Taiao feels the effect that it has on our wairua. Being in the ngahere is like, for me, is like being on such a high frequency that you feel that sense of oneness, of wholeness. That's what I felt whenever I'm in nature from a very young age. Science can't explain that feeling. So I realised Indigenous people all over the world acknowledge that feeling and live by that feeling, and that understanding of oneness and of wholeness and of energy and frequency is what governs how they do things, what knowledge forms, how it forms. I sort of thought, well, I'm Māori. I know I'm from Whareponga. Dad used to take us to my marae for every pipi whānau reunion that would happen between every 4 and 6 years, and we'd go for 3 days. But that was the limited experience I had of Whareponga. My nan left when she was 16 or 18 and swore she would never go back. There was just too much mamai there for her, and she would never speak to us about it. But if she heard us even say kia ora, she'd go, you can't think you're Māori because it won't get you anywhere. So I thought, man, I've got to go home. I've got to figure out who I am as Māori, because I understood that mōhiotanga Māori, te ao Māori, mātauranga Māori, the weaving of mātauranga Māori and science, because I started finding these papers and I started reading these papers and then going and tracking down these lecturers and these scholars and going, wow, thank you for this information. This is the solution to the problems that we're having. This is what the Taiao needs, is for people to understand te ao Māori, and that it's there to serve nature, therefore it's there to serve everyone. But you can't learn te ao Māori from a paper, nor can you learn it from a book, nor can you learn it from all the amazing work that these Māori scholars have doing. It can be a doorway to it, but we know it's localised, it's contextualised. So if I truly wanted to be someone who was an advocate for Te Ao Māori, if I was an advocate for Indigenous knowledge systems, if I was an advocate for mātauranga Māori, I had to go home and learn what that meant for me. I reached out to my auntie Kataraina PP because she's like one of my biggest mentors in safe spaces and said, I have to go home. I was so nervous because I didn't know how to do that. I was ready to get there and them go, who are you? Where have you been? And what do you want? Because sometimes that is the nature of our people. If you don't come in leading with your heart, our people see it straight away and the doors will close. So my process for going home was to turn up to our marae committee hui. Everyone knew who my tipuna are and who my nan was, of course, and all the aunties were like, "Wha, we haven't seen your branch for so long." They were so excited and celebrating that someone from my line had finally come home. And all I did was introduce who I was, who I come from, and why I was there, which was I care so much about the whenua, and I believe that if I'm going to do something, I have to do it here because this is where my whakapapa is. I don't know what I can do or if you even want or need me, but that's why I'm here. And the whānau said, well, okay, what have you been learning? Well, I did this mahi with Cody dieback and this mahi with myrtle rust and I love biosecurity. And so they just said, oh yeah, we'll just stay here and figure out how we do that. Is this myrtle rust thing an issue for us? Because our whole livelihood at home is built around mānuka. Just for a little bit of context, Whareponga is valley up on the east coast out from Ruatoria. You drive down a long gravel road right to the coast to the beach. That's where our pā is, that's where our haukainga live, that's where our whole livelihoods are. We are 2.5 hours from the nearest supermarket in Gisborne. We have no power. Well, we've just recently got solar, but essentially we're fully off grid. There's no service. We have probably about 20 permanent haukainga residents, half of which would be over 70 years old. So a lot of Pakeke live at home, and our homesteads at home are hundreds and hundreds of years old, a lot of them. We are a valley. Our river runs down the valley to the ocean, and either side is steep, highly erodible hill country that was cleared and converted to farm and is just naturally regenerating back into mānuka. The reason I say mānuka is our whole livelihood is because it is how we cook our kai, it is how we warm our homes, it is how we fuel whatever it is we want to do. We don't have power, so the mānuka is our source of everything. Myrtle rust affects mānuka. So if our people are to lose mānuka, we lose our whole way of life. And so that's how the hiding started, I guess. I asked if I could park up at Whareponga for a year, sort of cut myself off from the rest of the world. I had to figure out how I could fund a year off grid because it's expensive living up the coast. Our people don't have a lot of money and resources, yet the basic everyday things cost so much more and are so much harder to achieve when you live in a remote, rural Māori community. So I realised, maybe I could record my time and my journey at Whareponga and do it as a master's so I could get a scholarship to just fund me to live there. So my whole time I was at Whareponga, I hand wrote my dissertation, which was essentially just a journal of my experience of figuring out how do you return home and how do you do true kaupapa Māori research. And that was hard in itself because, as you can imagine, I got 6 months into the year and I had all this beautiful content And I didn't want to give it to the university. Hell no. I remember having a breakdown, and I climbed up my maunga, which I went up every day because, well, one, it's a good hikoi, but two, there's service at the top of it, so it would allow me to, check my emails. And I sat in this kōwhai tree, that's my favourite kōwhai tree, and I was having a tangi, and I was having a fat cry in this tree going, oh my gosh, like I finally feel at home. I finally feel like I belong here. I finally feel a part of this place. And I have all this beautiful kōrero tuku iho that every single person I've spent time with has been so open with sharing, because so many of our pakeke are just so happy to have someone come home. Then I was like, I don't want to share this kōrero. I don't feel like it's safe to give this kōrero back to the institution. But I'm getting paid to produce it. I'm sitting there having this internal dilemma, and a tui comes down and lands right in front of me, like in the same tree, and I just feel a little bit more tau, and I watch the tui, and it jumps from this kōwhai and has a little suckle, and then jumps to this flower and has a little suckle, and then jumps to this flower and has a little suckle. And in that moment, I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, I can give them little bits. I can give them this little bit and this little bit and this little bit, but I don't have to give them the whole tree, but I can give them some of the key hua of this journey, and they're not going to know what I haven't given. I felt an obligation to give something too, because if there's another person like me in 20 years who's in an institution and wants to even know about Whareponga, my dissertation is probably the only thing that would come up. And it switches. Each chapter starts with a kōrero tuku iho of my papas and my nannies sharing with me what the state of the whenua was like for them when they were my age. My whole year, my whole journey was this comparison of how the landscape had changed. Kōkapia asked me to do something called a biodiversity audit, and she wanted to know what was the state of our whenua and what plants did we have on all of our land blocks. That was my real initiation of walking the whenua. At this point, I'd spent most of my time going to the familiar places that I knew were safe to go to, up my maunga, spending time just having cups of teas with the nannies and the papas, and I hadn't really encroached on the whenua much further than that, because I felt that when the time was right, I would be invited to do that. And this was an invitation. So Marg, who's another one of my beautiful kōka, she is the living, breathing embodiment of kaitiaki. And I'm going to get emotional because I just love and appreciate her. And, she's dedicated her whole life to understanding and listening to the whenua, and has been trying for so long to get our people to listen, and it's been hard. And I know that me coming home and our relationship has given her a sense of hope, and so I hope that one day I can be half the kaitiaki that she is. Marg, Koro and myself spent all day every day up with the sun, walking the whenua back home in the dark. And some days we'd have way more of the whānau coming out with us. Sometimes it would actually just be me and Marg. And Paula Godfrey, she's one of my good friends from Manaaki whenua. She came and spent a few weeks with us, helping us, because we thought we knew the plants, and then when you're actually looking at all the small organisms and the ferns and all these things, we didn't actually know the species like we thought we did. We knew the main ones, but there were so many we didn't know. And I'm so grateful to Paula, who came home and spent that time with us and has just shared so much of her time and her mātauranga with our people at home. We mapped all the whenua. We gave every land block a list of all the plants on their whenua, the state of it, the priorities. And during this time of walking the whenua, I don't know if anyone's ever spent essentially 8 months straight with no technology and being outdoors pretty much in silence all day, every day, just walking. She is speaking to us at volume. But you have to be quiet and and patient in order to listen. The world works at such a fast pace. Everything is so fast paced and everything is linear. We think linear. We think yesterday, tomorrow. We think up, down, right, wrong, black, white. Nature does not work or think like that. And she works in rhythms and cycles, and her concept of time is so slow. And so in order to really tap into papa tuanuku, to the whenua, to the Taiao, we have to slow ourselves right down and switch off from the world and just be open to listening. It's like me sitting in that kōwhai tree. Like, that could be one way in which the whenua, the Taiao, speaks to you. The more time and intention you put into just being still and listening, the more you see, you feel, you hear. I felt, and I still feel, very much not Māori enough because I wasn't raised with te reo Māori. I never did kapahaka. I don't know mōtiatia waiata. I don't know karakia. I am growing in all of these parts of being Māori. But the one thing that coming home and walking the whenua has done for me, one thing I learned is that it's okay to not be able to do all of those things that other Māori do. Your thing, Jade, is te reo te Taiao. Your thing is the whenua. And stick to your thing. When I'm in the ngāhere, when I'm in the moana, when I'm in the awa, there is no sense of not being enough, nor is there a sense of not being Māori enough, because I feel one with the Taiao, I feel one with papa tuanuku, and that is what being truly Māori is in my mind. I also feel grateful that I have the scientific knowledge, because a lot of Māori can't understand and interpret that reo because it's so far from our worldview. Equally for scientists and for Pākehā, te reo Māori and the Māori values and the way that we live and the way that we relate to the world is incomprehensible. I felt like I had to be in one or the other, and therefore I felt like I was never enough for either. But now I realise I can be the bridge. I don't have to be all of one, nor do I have to be all of the other, but I can support scientists, councils, government to better value and understand Māori, whenua Māori. Equally, I can help our own people to understand and have access to the knowledge and the research. So often I've been in a situation where scientists are talking to Māori and Māori are too scared to speak up because they feel dumb, and then I explain what they're saying in a simple word and they go, oh, well, yeah, duh. That's where I feel like my two worlds have come together. I'm so grateful to all of my aunties who are my biggest support, my biggest mentors, are the leaders of all of the kaupapa that are happening at home. And that is from fencing off all of our waterways and our wetlands to starting a native plant nursery, to getting solar panels at home, to redesigning the way we think about waste and what we do with waste. Long drops aren't the thing anymore, whānau. What's the next stage? We don't want our mokopuna still having tutai leach into the awa. All of these conversations about the future we're creating, my aunties bring me into these and support me to have a say in those conversations because they know where my heart is, but that's not where I asked to be, you know, and that's not my place to put myself there either. And so I hope that me sharing a little bit of my journey with that might encourage others to just do it anyway. Find your one person who is connected to home and ring them and just say, can I come hang out? Can I come have a cup of tea? Can I sit down with you? Or if you have no contact at home, if you don't know anything about your marae, go on the Facebook page. Look at their pānui. Look at the next event they have on. Our marae are always running awesome things. Just show up. Someone will ask you, who are you? Know who your tipuna are. Introduce who your tipuna are. That's all it takes. You are whānau. From my experience, they'll be happy to have you home. I just want to really acknowledge our haukainga, and particularly Papa Joe, Papa Taina, Papa Hira, Nanny Max, and all of my kōka, Pia, Barbs, Uncle Cups, all of them, because they are the safe space that allowed me to come home and feel safe, and my nan didn't have that. And I know that my nan was not safe when she was at home. And I have put a lot of time into going to our waterfall and letting that pain and that mamai and that fear that Nan had of home go, so that it hopefully is no longer in our line. And it's a real privilege to have been able to do that. You know, our whakatauki is hoki mai ki Whareponga kia whakamātou koe i ngā waiparapara o te hotohoto e. Return to Whareponga and taste the bittersweet waters of the hotohoto. That's our waterfall. That is our supply of water to our homes, to our pā. It is the water we use for baptism. It is where we go for healing and for cleansing. And that whakatauki reminds us that you need to keep going back, you need to keep returning home in order to be enriched by all that home has to offer. You can't just go once, you can't just go for reunions, you can't just go for tangihanga. You've got to keep going back every year, every opportunity you can. And it's in those moments, it's in the conversations you have with your nannies, it's in the telling off you get from your aunties, it's in the laughter of the kids when you splash them with water in the creek. That is when you are truly enriched by your place. Show up, put your boots on, do the mahi, grab the tea towel, whatever. Be willing to show up and contribute. Don't come and tell everyone all of what you can do and who you are and how much you know. Just come with a willingness to give and to contribute. You might need to keep giving and contributing for years and for years and for years. It's through the giving and the contributing that the place and the people will just naturally feed you on that journey. And you realize, holy, by giving, I am receiving so much more just because I'm walking in alignment and I'm coming from a place of pure aroha, really, and intention. People can read that, especially Māori, especially the aunties, far out. So, yeah, make sure you're in that space of being, I think, is important.
Kua whakapu mautia te aroha, kua papa ko haitia te ngā ere, tau ana ko te rangi Māori e, tau ana te mahana, te noho tahitanga e au e. A ngā taina me ngā tuakana, tēnei ngā hua mahau ngā hua rahi, nano e whakaata maina, puanga ngā mau o te ngā here, tau ana te mahana, te noho tahitanga pūmatoro, te pūmatoro ki te ao. Ano te rite ki te ngahere, ano kua papa ko haiti ara. Te pūmatoro ki te ao. Ano te rite ki te ngahere, ano kua papa ko haiti ara. Te pūmatoro ki te ao.